AITA for rejecting my ex when she begged for forgiveness after cheating on me? I'm a 32-year-old man, and I was with my ex, Ivy, for 4 years, living together for the last 2.5. The first few months were absolutely incredible. She would post perfectly curated photos of us at elegant restaurants, on weekend trips to San Antonio and Dallas, and on shopping sprees around Austin. Everything looked like a magazine photo shoot. But here's what I didn't notice at first. I was paying for absolutely everything. Every meal, every trip, every shopping bag that appeared in those pictures. She would always say, "I'll get the next one, babe," with that sweet smile of hers. And somehow, that next time never came. That's where I really messed up. I started making serious money right as the relationship got serious. I was promoted from junior project manager to senior, then to regional director in just 18 months. Suddenly, I was pulling in close to $300,000 some years with bonuses, and Ivy's lifestyle expectations rose right along with my salary, like we were on some kind of luxury elevator. She moved into my condo downtown about 6 months after we started dating. I owned the place thanks to some smart real estate investments I made early in my career when the market was down. 2 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, a killer view of Lady Bird Lake, valued at about $850,000. I was proud of that place. It represented everything I'd worked for. That's when Ivy's domestic goddess phase began. She insisted on handling all the home management because, as she put it was important for the woman to create a welcoming environment for her man. Sounds reasonable in theory, right? Like she wanted to contribute to our relationship in a meaningful way. Wrong. Big mistake. First, she took over the grocery shopping, and somehow, our monthly food budget went from $400 to $1,500 almost overnight. She started shopping exclusively at premium organic stores and using those meal kit services that cost more per serving than a restaurant dinner. She would throw away perfectly good food because it was past its peak freshness. I'm talking about tossing out $50 steaks because they'd been in the fridge for 2 days instead of 1. Next, she took charge of decorating and spent $18,000 of my money to create a space that reflects our shared values. She threw out furniture I liked and had an emotional attachment to. A comfortable leather couch I'd saved up for months to buy, a solid oak table my grandfather built with his own 2 hands before he passed away, a vintage display case for my record collection that I found at an estate sale. She replaced it all with minimalist white and gray stuff that made the place look like a doctor's office waiting room. Everything was Instagram ready, but nothing felt like home. The worst part was how she talked about me. She would constantly tell people she had to handle everything because Mason would live like a bachelor caveman without me guiding his domestic choices. She'd introduce me to her friends as my boyfriend, who I'm house training, while everyone would laugh like it was adorable instead of completely humiliating. I'd just smile awkwardly while she basically told everyone I was incompetent at the most basic things, but I let it slide because the physical side of our relationship was good, and I genuinely thought this was how serious adult relationships worked. Besides, she would get genuinely upset anytime I questioned her spending decisions, telling me I was prioritizing money over our relationship and that I didn't appreciate the emotional labor she was putting into maintaining our home. Meanwhile, I was working 60-hour weeks, paying all the bills, her car insurance, her phone plan, her gym membership, and on top of that, I gave her a $2,500 monthly allowance for personal expenses. She quit her part-time marketing job after 8 months because, according to her, it caused too much stress and interfered with her content creation goals. Content creation goals, right? For the next 3 years, I basically funded Ivy's entire lifestyle while she played homemaker and pretended to build a social media empire that never materialized. Her daily routine, looking back on it now, was a joke. She'd wake up at 10 a.m., sometimes later, make an elaborate breakfast that she'd photograph from 12 different angles for half an hour before eating it. She'd spend 3 hours curating content, which really meant scrolling through TikTok and Instagram for inspiration. Maybe she'd attend a yoga or Pilates class, shop for random things we absolutely didn't need, and then complain about being completely exhausted from managing the household and building her personal brand. The household management was a complete farce. She would order groceries online through expensive delivery services, but somehow always forget the basics, like milk, eggs, and bread. She would schedule appointments for technicians or home repairs, then book lunches with her friends at the same time, and expect me to reschedule important client meetings to deal with the contractors. The place was constantly messy, even though she literally had all day, every day, to maintain it. She'd start cleaning projects, but never finish them. And you couldn't dare mention anything or suggest she could maybe contribute in a more practical way. She would immediately flip the script and accuse me of being unsupportive and not valuing how hard it is to maintain a home while building a personal brand from scratch. Her brand, by the way, consisted almost entirely of posting selfies with inspirational quotes pulled from Pinterest and the occasional day in my life video that mostly showed her doing nothing productive. The financial situation got worse as her expectations grew. She started asking for a bigger monthly allowance because inflation was affecting everything, and her expenses were naturally increasing. Then it became an investment in her professional future when she wanted a $4,000 professional camera and lighting setup. After that, it was a $6,000 online course on social media mastery and monetization strategies, taught by some influencer with maybe 80,000 followers. I was getting more and more suspicious, but every time I brought up the possibility of her getting even a part-time job to contribute financially, she would absolutely lose it. "You want me to work some dead-end retail job while you're making six figures?" she'd scream. "You obviously don't believe in my potential or my entrepreneurial vision. I thought you were different from other men who can't handle being with ambitious, driven women." Ambitious, driven, the delusion was absolutely incredible. The breaking point should have been last Christmas when she spent $9,000 of my money on gifts for her family and friends, designer handbags, expensive jewelry, luxury spa packages. And for me, she got a $35 wallet with the clearance tag still on it. When I asked her about the huge discrepancy, she said, "It's not about the money. It's about the thought and showing you care," without the slightest shred of self-awareness about what that said about her feelings for me. Or maybe the breaking point was when I overheard her telling her friends that I was completely devoted to her and would probably propose soon with a huge ring, because he knows how lucky he is to have someone like me in his life. But like a complete idiot, I kept making excuses for her behavior. She's building her brand and needs time to get established. She's maintaining our home, and that's unpaid labor, too. She's planning our future, and that takes emotional energy. Total nonsense. But I was too emotionally invested to see the situation clearly. The real wake-up call came 3 months ago. I came home early from a client meeting because I had a bad case of food poisoning. I felt awful, nauseous, dizzy. I just wanted to lie down in a dark room and rest. That's when I found Ivy on our couch with Grant, her personal trainer, and they definitely weren't discussing proper squat form or protein intake recommendations. There I was, standing in my own living room, which I pay for entirely, watching my girlfriend of 4 years with some muscle-bound guy named Grant, whom I had been indirectly paying for 2 years through her wellness and fitness budget. The audacity was just unbelievable. She wasn't ashamed or sorry or even surprised. She was just annoyed that I had interrupted her afternoon entertainment. "Mason, you were supposed to be at the office until 6, was the only thing she said. Not in, "I'm sorry." Not in, "It's not what it looks like." Not any normal human reaction to being caught cheating. Just irritation, as if I was an inconvenient roommate who had come home early. Grant, at least, had the basic decency to look uncomfortable. He started hastily putting his clothes back on, mumbling clumsy apologies while trying to get dressed as quickly as possible. Ivy just sat there with her arms crossed, glaring at me like I was the problem. "We need to talk right now," she said after Grant had practically sprinted out the door. "Yeah, we definitely need to talk," I replied. And that's when she hit me with the most self-centered, narcissistic garbage I've ever heard in my life. According to her, the entire situation was completely my fault because I had been emotionally absent for months, prioritizing work over our relationship and her emotional needs. She said she'd been feeling empty and disconnected for a long time, and that Grant actually listened to her, that he understood her aspirations and dreams instead of just throwing money at problems. "You treat me like a roommate you sometimes sleep with instead of a partner," she said with a completely straight face. "Grant sees me as a woman with real goals and supports my vision for the future." I almost laughed. "What goals exactly? What vision? You haven't worked in 3 years." I pay for literally everything while you pretend to be an influencer with your 4,000 followers. Apparently, that was the worst thing I could have said. She went completely ballistic. She started screaming about how I had never supported her entrepreneurial vision and that I clearly didn't understand the value of brand building in the modern economy, that I was just another boring finance guy who reduced women to their earning potential, and that she was tired of sacrificing her dreams and her authentic self for my comfort and conventional expectations. What dreams, Ivy? I asked. Specifically, what have you accomplished in the 4 years we've been together other than spending my money? I've built a platform, she shot back. I have almost 4,000 engaged followers who value my content. In 4 years, I said, that's roughly 20 new followers a month. My LinkedIn profile gets more engagement, and I barely even use it. That's when she played what she thought was her trump card, her big manipulative move. Maybe I should just move out, since you obviously don't appreciate what I bring to this relationship. We'll see how you manage everything without me organizing your life. You'll realize pretty fast what I really contribute around here. I was already completely done. There was nothing left. You know what? You're absolutely right. Pack your things and get out. Today. She clearly did not expect that response. She thought I would get flustered, beg her to stay, promise to change, and value her more. Fine, she said. But don't come crying to me when you realize you can't function like a normal adult without me. This place is going to be a complete disaster in a week. You'll be eating takeout every day and living in total chaos because you have zero domestic skills. We'll see, I replied. You will, she said. And when you're ready to apologize and truly appreciate what you had with me, maybe I'll consider giving you another chance, if you've learned your lesson. She packed 2 suitcases that night, but not before delivering her final monologue at the door, as if she were the star of her own reality show. I'm giving you exactly 1 week, Mason. 1 week before you're desperate, begging me to come back and fix the mess you've made. You need me way more than you think, and you're about to find that out the hard way. I just smiled calmly and said, try me. The door slammed shut, and 4 years of utter nonsense were officially over for good. The first thing I did was change all the passwords, bank accounts, streaming services, building access codes, credit cards, everything she would have had access to. Then I called a locksmith first thing the next morning and had all the locks changed before noon. After that, I started cleaning my own place for the first time in years. And holy cow, what I uncovered was absolutely disgusting. Remember how Ivy was supposedly maintaining our home as her big contribution? Well, maintaining apparently meant shoving dirty dishes under the sink whenever she was too lazy to wash them. I found weeks' worth of plates and glasses literally turned into science experiments. The smell that came out of there was nauseating, like something had died and been forgotten. The closets were absolutely stuffed with shopping bags of clothes she'd bought and never worn. They still had the tags on them. Some were even still inside the store bags. I did some quick mental math. It was easily $25,000 in impulse buys just gathering dust. Designer bags, shoes, clothes, jewelry, makeup, skincare products, all bought with my money and forgotten. A few days later, I found her business expense notebook where she meticulously tracked her influencer costs for tax purposes. Apparently, this woman had categorized literally everything as a business expense: $400 dinners, spa treatments, shopping sprees, weekend getaways, even vacations. All to justify spending my money on whatever caught her while pretending it was an investment in her career. But the real eye-opener was her laptop, which she had completely forgotten in her dramatic exit. It was still logged into everything: email, social media, messaging apps, cloud storage, everything. Her message history was a goldmine of truth. Conversations with Grant went back 8 months, and it wasn't just flirting and hookups. She was constantly talking trash about me, saying I was financially stable but boring, and that she was working on her exit strategy. She even said she would probably get at least half of my assets when we broke up since we'd been together for so long. But the messages with her friends were even worse. There was a group chat called Sugar Baby Strategies, where they rated their boyfriends based on earning potential and maintenance effort, and shared tactics for maximizing financial benefits while minimizing emotional investment. One message from 2 months before our breakup read, "Mason is so whipped, he'll probably pay my rent even after we break up." These finance guys are so desperate for hot women, they'll do literally anything to keep us happy and around. Another gem. I've already stacked like $70K in jewelry over 4 years, and he thinks it's all romantic and meaningful. I'm selling most of it when we're done and using the money to move to LA and start over. The jewelry, I had bought her probably $75,000 worth of it over the years for birthdays, Christmas, Valentine's Day, and just because I love you gifts. All of them supposedly meaningful symbols of our relationship and my feelings for her. I spent the next 3 days meticulously documenting everything I found. Pictures of the hidden mess she'd left behind, screenshots of all her messages and conversations, receipts for everything I'd bought her over the years, bank statements showing exactly how much money had flowed out of my accounts to support her lifestyle. Not necessarily for legal reasons, but to get a completely clear picture of how thoroughly and systematically I had been manipulated and used. Then, I got to work on completely reclaiming my space and my life. The next month felt like taking my soul back after years of having it slowly drained away. The first thing was to get rid of all the stuff she had abandoned. Clothes, shoes, bags, jewelry. It all went to a luxury consignment shop downtown. I made about $18,000 in total, which I immediately donated to a local shelter for victims of domestic violence. It felt like the most appropriate thing to do under the circumstances. Next, I started replacing all the sterile, white furniture with pieces I actually liked. I got my grandfather's dining table out of storage, where it had been sitting sadly for 3 years. I bought a really comfortable leather couch where I could actually relax without worrying about ruining the aesthetic. I put my record collection back on display in a way that made me happy to look at it. The place started to feel like a real home again instead of a soulless showroom designed for social media pictures. I started cooking real food again for the first time in years. It turns out I'm pretty good at it when I don't have someone constantly criticizing every ingredient or cooking method. I made good steaks, learned how to smoke brisket on my balcony, and even started making fresh bread from scratch on the weekends. Food tastes a whole lot better when you're not stressed out about someone judging your effort. But the best part of all was the incredible quiet. No constant stream of complaints about how bored she was. No comparisons to her friends who had it better. No demands that I take her somewhere new and expensive every weekend to keep her entertained. No more drama. No more manipulation. No more walking on eggshells all the time. Just productive peace, a quiet stillness where I could actually think clearly for the first time in years. My work performance improved dramatically almost immediately, without the constant emotional drama and financial stress. I was finally able to focus on a side project I'd been developing for months, but never had the mental energy to finish, a data analytics approach to real estate investment. I finally got it working properly and started testing it with small property investments using my savings. Meanwhile, I was watching Ivy's social media presence fall apart in real time, and it was honestly fascinating. The first week after she left, she was posting about her exciting new chapter and finally being free to pursue my authentic self without compromise. She was living with Grant in his studio apartment, posting gym selfies and motivational quotes about knowing your worth and never settling for less than you deserve. By week 2, the posts started to sound more desperate and defensive. Sometimes the universe tests us to make us stronger, or real men aren't intimidated by ambitious, independent women and other thinly veiled attempts to justify her situation. Week 3 brought the real drama. Grant got fired from the gym for inappropriate conduct with multiple female clients. Apparently, I wasn't the only one that guy was cheating on. Ivy's posts devolved into increasingly unhinged rants about fake people who don't appreciate authenticity and how money doesn't buy true happiness or personal fulfillment. Meanwhile, my investment strategy was starting to show real results. I made $65,000 in 3 weeks on a flip of a commercial property I had identified and analyzed using my new system. It wasn't a fortune at my income level, but it was solid proof of concept that it worked in practice. I started getting random messages from Ivy's friends, asking if I was doing okay emotionally and if I needed support during this difficult transition, obviously trying to get information to report back to Ivy about how devastated I supposedly was. I kept my responses simple and positive. I'm actually doing great. Thanks for asking. By the second month after the breakup, things got even more interesting to watch. Ivy's new independent life, was collapsing faster than anyone could have predicted. Grant's sudden firing meant that for the first time in over 3 years, Ivy had to get a real job. She started working at a downtown boutique for $16 an hour, which must have been a huge psychological blow for someone who had been living off my six-figure income without lifting a finger. Her social media presence basically died completely because she no longer had the time, money, or lifestyle to create the content she used to post. You can't photograph expensive meals when you're eating instant noodles for dinner. You can't post gym selfies when you can't afford the membership anymore. You can't brag about your amazing life when you're working retail and living in a studio apartment. According to mutual friends, the apartment with Grant was a total disaster. A studio in a bad part of town, with no air conditioning during an Austin summer. Upstairs neighbors who threw parties until 4 a.m. every night. A far cry from the influencer lifestyle she had been selling on her feed for years. That's when the indirect contact attempt started. First, her sister called me out of the blue to see how I was handling everything and casually mentioned that Ivy was struggling with the transition to independence, but learning valuable life lessons. Then her mom sent me a long text message saying she was proud of Ivy for finally standing up for herself, but was genuinely concerned about her financial situation and asking if I would consider helping her get properly set up as a friend, regardless of their romantic history. I ignored absolutely all of it. I didn't respond to anything. My investment strategy was now generating consistent returns. I had cleared an additional $250,000 in 2 months, which I immediately reinvested into larger properties with better profit potential. I started seriously considering leaving my day job to go into real estate development full-time. I also started casually dating again for the first time in 4 years. Nothing serious or committed, just coffee dates and low-stakes hangouts. But it felt incredible to remember what it was like to spend time with women who actually had things going on in their own lives and interesting things to talk about besides how many social media followers they had. Apparently, that's when Ivy completely lost what little composure she had left. A friend of hers, with whom I had remained on friendly terms, told me that Ivy had been obsessively asking about my new relationships and whether I seemed devastated or heartbroken over the breakup. When she was told I actually seemed happier and more relaxed than I had in years, Ivy apparently screamed that I was obviously just putting on a brave face to save face and would come crawling back sooner or later when the loneliness hit me. The level of delusion was astonishing, but the best was yet to come. 3 months after she walked out of my life, Ivy's carefully constructed world came crashing down in the most spectacular way possible, and I had a front row seat for all of it. Grant left her for another regular client from the gym he had also been seeing on the side, leaving Ivy completely stuck with the lease on the awful studio apartment she couldn't afford on her retail salary. The boutique fired her after just 6 weeks for being consistently late, spending more time taking selfies in the store mirrors than helping customers, and generally having a terrible attitude about basic job responsibilities. Her car got repossessed because she hadn't made a payment in 3 months, apparently under the assumption that I was still handling all her bills automatically, even though we had broken up. Her credit cards got maxed out and then canceled. She was basically financially ruined in less than 90 days after leaving my comfortable, stable home. That's when she tried to contact me directly for the first time since she slammed the door. First text message: "Hey, I know things ended really badly between us, but I think I left some important documents at your place. Would it be possible to swing by sometime this week to pick them up?" There were no documents. I had thrown out the few random papers she'd left behind months ago. I didn't reply or acknowledge the message in any way. Second message, 2 days later: "I'm going through a really tough time, and I honestly just need someone to talk to about everything. You were always such a good listener and gave great advice. Could we maybe meet for coffee, just as friends?" I didn't reply to that one either. Third message: "Mason, I made a huge mistake with everything that happened. Grant was just a stupid rebound, and I never stopped thinking about you or caring about us. Can we at least meet somewhere neutral and talk about everything that went wrong?" Nope. Delete. The messages got more and more desperate and frequent as her situation worsened. She had clearly been stalking my social media, seeing posts about my successful investments and my expanding business. She could see that I was thriving while her life was falling apart, and it was driving her insane. That's when she decided to show up at my building in person, unannounced and uninvited. I was coming home from a meeting with potential investors interested in funding my new real estate ventures when I saw her in the lobby, and she was unrecognizable. Cheap, fast fashion clothes, no makeup, her hair in a messy ponytail, with dark circles under her eyes. Nothing like the perfectly polished Instagram princess I had financially supported for 4 years. "Mason, thank God you're here. I've been trying to reach you for weeks," Ivy said. "You need to leave this building right now. Please, just give me 5 minutes. I'm desperate for help, and you're the only person who might understand." Then it all came pouring out. She was completely broke, practically homeless, and had been couch surfing between different friends for 2 weeks because no one wanted her around for very long. Her parents had cut her off financially after they found out about the cheating and the way she had treated me. Her friends were tired of supporting her emotionally and financially. She had applied for dozens of jobs, but had no real experience or useful skills after years of pretending to be an entrepreneur. "I messed up completely, and I know that now," she said, crying actual, genuine tears for the first time in our entire relationship. "I thought I could make it on my own, but I can't handle any of this. I need you, Mason. I need help." For a brief moment, I almost felt a flicker of sympathy for her. She looked truly broken and desperate. But then I remembered 4 years of being treated like a human ATM. The constant contempt, the manipulation, the cheating, the sugar baby strategies group chat, all of it. "You said I couldn't function as an adult without you managing my life," I said calmly. "That I'd be begging you to come back within a week because I desperately needed you." "I was completely wrong," she replied, sobbing. "I was angry, and I said stupid things I didn't mean. You're the best thing that ever happened to me, and I was too immature to appreciate it. It's interesting how you only realized that after your backup plan completely failed and you hit rock bottom," I countered. She grabbed my arm in desperation, but I pulled away immediately. "Please, Mason, I'll do anything. I'll get a full-time job and work my butt off. I'll pay you back every single cent over time. I'll sign any agreement you want about our relationship. Just help me get back on my feet." "You want my help with something?" I asked. "Yes, anything," she replied. I pulled out my phone and showed her the balance in my investment account. Thanks to a few successful deals that week, the total was exactly $1.4 million. Her eyes went wide, with a mix of shock and something that looked like hunger. "You see, you're a millionaire now?" "Just about," I said. "And you know the best part? I did all of this in the 3 months since you walked out of my life. It turns out I'm incredibly productive and focused when I'm not financially supporting a leech who contributes nothing." I watched the hope in her eyes die completely. "So this is exactly what I'm going to do to help you," I continued. "I'm going to give you precisely what you gave me for 4 years. Absolutely nothing. Mason, please, I'm begging you. You called me a boring finance guy who would never amount to anything special without you managing my life. You told your friends I was so pathetic and desperate that I'd probably keep paying your bills even after you left me. You spent 4 years treating me like your personal bank while sleeping with someone else behind my back and planning your exit strategy." She was weeping uncontrollably now, making a scene in the lobby. "I'm so sorry. I was young and stupid and selfish. I've learned my lesson, I swear." "Good for you," I replied. "Learning hard lessons builds character. You should thank me for giving you this opportunity for growth." I started walking towards the elevator to end this conversation for good. "Mason, you can't just abandon me like this. I have nowhere to go." I turned back one last time. "Watch me." As the elevator doors closed, I could still hear her in the lobby, crying and pleading with the doorman to let her wait for me until I changed my mind. I immediately sent a message to the building management to have her permanently banned from the premises for harassment. Final update: 6 months later, my real estate investment company was acquired by a major development firm for $18 million. I'm officially set for life at 32 years old, completely financially independent, and building something with purpose. Ivy, according to the few mutual friends we still have, is working at a call center, making $12 an hour, and living with 3 roommates in a terrible apartment on the other side of town. Her Instagram account now has about 180 followers and consists almost entirely of generic inspirational quotes about rebuilding from the bottom and learning to love yourself first. The kind of content people post when their lives have completely fallen apart. I sometimes genuinely wonder what would have happened if I had taken her back that day in the lobby as she was crying and begging. She would have promised to change and be different. She would have acted grateful and supportive for a few weeks, and then slowly reverted to her old entitled, parasitic behavior as soon as she felt secure again. Instead, I learned the most valuable lesson of my life. Never reward someone who has treated you terribly, no matter how much they cry or plead when the natural consequences finally catch up to them. The best revenge isn't getting even or hurting the person who hurt you. It's becoming so successful and fulfilled that their presence in your life becomes completely irrelevant. Although I have to admit, Ivy was right about one thing. She was right when she said I couldn't last a single day without her. I've lasted 6 months and counting, and I've never been happier, wealthier, or more at peace in my entire life. If you liked it, don't forget to leave a comment and support the channel by subscribing. See you in the upcoming stories.